Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Leon Goldberg. I am the editor-in-chief of UN Dispatch and the founder of Global Dispatches, which is the longest-running independent international affairs podcast.
And I'm Anjali Dayal. I'm a professor of international politics at Fordham University, and I teach and do research and write about the UN's role in peace and security. A couple of years ago, I wrote a book about how the UN's big 1990s peacekeeping failures shaped peace processes worldwide, and I'm working on another book as we speak.
And as a journalist, I have covered the UN for about 20 years at this point, since Kofi Annan was Secretary General. And we are teaming up on a new podcast about the United Nations, and it's going to be called
To Save Us from Hell. If you've been around the UN at all, you'll recognize the quotation. It's usually attributed to Dag Hammarskjöld, the UN's second Secretary General, and he once said that the United Nations wasn't created in order to bring us to heaven,
but to save us from hell. This is going to be a weekly chat show in which Anjali and I discuss the latest news from the United Nations. We'll discuss the latest happenings at the General Assembly and Security Council, the Secretary General's latest whereabouts, key updates from peacekeeping missions and UN agencies around the world.
Daily coverage of the UN has receded over the years in major venues, but what hasn't receded is actually the importance of the UN in international politics. In fact, from global pandemics to global climate disasters to regional war to ongoing humanitarian crises, the UN has never been more important to solving some of these collective global problems that we have, because it's the only global institution we have to cooperate.
So I'm a journalist who covers the United Nations. Anjali is an academic who studies the United Nations. With our powers combined, we will help you understand the UN with greater clarity and ease. Our show is intended for a variety of audiences. We intend to be a resource for people who, in one way or another, are professionally engaged in the UN. You could work at the UN, around the UN, in the NGO community. This show will be for you. But we also want to cast a wider net. We want to make this show accessible to all. So even if you're just casually interested in what's happening at the UN, our show is going to be for you.
Every week, we'll sit down and we'll discuss a couple of the key important topics that are happening at the UN that week. And sometimes we'll bring in special expert guests who can help us understand these topics from different angles and from their central area of expertise.
So how can you find this exciting new podcast about the United Nations to save us from hell? It is going to be a project of Global Dispatches. Please visit globaldispatches.org, where you can follow the links to the new To Save Us from Hell podcast. And here's the thing. To Save Us from Hell is going to rely on crowdfunding to get us off the ground and to sustain us as we produce show after show, week after week, into perpetuity.
We're really excited about this project, and we hope you'll join us.
We're going to be launching very soon. Go to globaldispatches.org, where you can sign up for the podcast. You'll be able to get it on any podcast listening app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. It'll be there for you. But first, you got to sign up at globaldispatches.org. Thanks, and we will see you soon.
See you soon.
Thanks, and we will see you soon.
See you soon.
See you soon. No, that was great. Oh man.